What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video I want to talk about how much next-gen games are going to cost. So PS5, Xbox Series X games. And this comes off of the story yesterday that we had about NBA 2K21, which is, as of now, as of at least when I'm recording this video, our only hint as of what this could be. Also, Jeff Grubb, who obviously has leaked and talked about a lot of different stuff in the gaming industry, he kind of threw his hat out there and talked about what he thinks about pricing, so I'll go over kind of what he said as well. But NBA's price seems to be, so it made its way online for retail. It's going to be, and this is, I guess, U.S. currency, $69.99, so $70, which is $10 more than the PS4 and Xbox One version. So those are obviously $59.99. And then Jeff Grubb talks about how this is really, and this is what I kind of want to talk about in this video too, this is really a moment in time that they're either going to do it or they're not going to do it. They're either going to increase prices for next-gen games, which is a very, very high possibility that they do, or that they just leave it alone and then kind of suffer the ramifications of either. He talks about how maybe it could even go low. Like if they go to 70 and it doesn't work, they could come back and do 60 again, which I don't really I don't think it's not as easy as how he makes it seem to be, but I mean we'll have to wait and see. It's tough. It's honestly super tough. Now I'm no economist, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. I obviously cover games. I do like look into politics and stuff like that, but I'm not going to talk about that here, and I don't talk about that here. But take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, obviously, because it's just my opinion. I do understand it. In general, in the world, things have gone up, okay? Inflation has gone up literally everywhere. It's made everything cost so much more, literally for decades and decades. And one of the things, and this is factually correct, though, one of the things that has not changed is games. Gaming prices, in terms of the AAA games, the bigger budget, the bigger games we've gotten, $60. It's been that way for like 20 plus years. It has never gone up. It has never gone down. Now again, you get $40 games, you get $30 games, you get 20, you get 15. Depends on indie, or is it that medium kind of game, right? Like Destroy All Humans on consoles, it's going to be $40. SpongeBob was $30. Obviously, you have games kind of all over the place, right? Some are 60, some are 30, some are 40. But 60 is that high. You don't really go higher than that unless it's a collector's edition, right? Unless it's something like special. Then you can maybe have the $70 one, or there's $80, and then some. If it comes with like a statue and it's got all these things with it, maybe it's like $150, $200. I mean, so obviously it has gone up, but the base price has always been $60. We've even heard Sean Layden, who used to be the president of Sony's like first-party studios, right? He was a big part of Sony. He seemed like a really awesome guy. He left, and things for Sony have never really been the same, by the way, since he's left. It's kind of gone downhill from there. But he recently said, like literally a week or two ago, that he doesn't see a future like that. Like he thinks that this literally cannot keep up. That game production budgets for like literally how they make games, they have gone up. Yeah, so the price of a game, the price of buying a video game hasn't gone up, okay? But the price of making it has gone up. In fact, some of these budgets can be $100 million, $200 million, $300 million to make a video game. So when you think of movie budgets, right, sometimes you think, those numbers are oftentimes thrown out there that, hey, this movie costs 150 or this movie costs 200 million to make. I mean, you hear that quite often. That's a lot of money. That's a ton of money. And then, you see the box office, and it's very easy to say, okay, well, obviously they made their money back, or they doubled it, or they just broke even. With games, it's a whole lot more secretive. We don't always get game sales, especially we don't get specific game sales. We know there's different cuts in terms of video games, like when it goes through the online store, like literally any game that comes out, okay, Sony takes a cut of it, Microsoft takes a cut. I think it's like 30% of the actual money that they make goes to Sony or goes to Microsoft just for having it go up on their store, right? So there's different cuts that go on. We don't really know. It's hard to tell for games how much they make for the game. We only really know if they make sequels, or if they're able to, if they open up new studios, maybe we're like, okay, well, obviously they're doing quite well because they can open up new studios. If they close down, or if they have to switch to a completely new game, then maybe we can assume that first game or whatever game they were making on just did not work. It didn't make the money that they needed, so they have to do something else, right? Or maybe we hear in like fiscal reports that it didn't reach the numbers, but it's a lot harder to tell. It's basically what I'm saying. These games cost a ton ton of money to make and they don't go up in price. So am I petitioning for prices of video games to go up? No. What I will say, though, in all fairness, in all honesty, I would not be surprised if it happens, and I wouldn't be mad. Does that make sense? I get that people probably will be mad, okay? If all of a sudden, literally for next gen, because people are already upset about next gen and how much it's going to cost and that they don't want to, upgrade right away, all that kind of stuff. And I get that because money doesn't grow on trees, and you already have your current console. Why? I mean, I completely get it. People are already mad about that. Imagine when they hear that, okay, well, not only are you going to have to spend $300, $400, $500 for your next gen consoles, oh, that doesn't include, then you have controllers and all that kind of stuff and accessories. But then after that, then the games are actually more expensive on it than it was for current gen. That's going to make people mad. So I will understand that. I would understand if people say that. But again, where I'm coming from with this, I'll, again, blatantly honest with you, after seeing this stuff, I'm now kind of expecting it, so that I'm not going to be off guard, if it actually happens. And again, I don't think I'll be all that mad, because at the end of the day, it is growing. I mean, there's literally no factual way you can disagree that it is becoming more and more expensive to make games. And is that the fault of, and by the way, I'll give you this, is that the fault of the development teams? Yeah, they keep stocking up, they keep making games bigger. In fact, that's what Sean Layden said. All these games, they all want to have the biggest open world. They all want to constantly be expanding their story and expanding how long the game is. And why can't we just go back to 10, 15 hours of so like Last of Us is like 25, 30 hours, okay? In fact, it took me 24 hours, and I didn't rush through, but I didn't do everything in that game. It could probably, in fact, some of my friends have even taken 26, 27, 28 hours. So it's in that range of 25 to 30 hour game, let's say, okay? The first game was like 17 maybe hours, 16, 17 hours, so it almost doubled. It almost doubled from the first game to the second game, and it's pretty much just a story game, right? I mean, the Abby part's obviously padded The Last of Us Part 2, but, so I get what Sean Layden's saying there, right? We used to have games that were shorter. Now, open world games, how do you really do something about that? I mean, like GTA, Witcher, Dragon, any BioWare game, right? Like those kind of games, we do kind of expect the world. Think about like the Batman game. What I always say is like, well, we obviously want the Batman game to be bigger, right? Like this world of Batman to be a bigger world. That's just kind of what we expect when we go from one game to the next. Is okay, well, you hope that it does get a little bit bigger. Otherwise, you're maybe thinking you're playing the same game. You know what I mean? So I do understand that you could make the argument where it's like, stop making your game so big, stop increasing the budget. But with the increased technology, with all this different stuff, it does become a thing where games are a lot more expensive now. So I do understand it. I do, and I will say again, I do think it's very possible that the games for next gen do cost an extra $10 or however what the currency is in your country. I do think that's a high possibility. I do agree with Jeff Grubb in the way of it really is now or never. If you're going to increase the prices of games, you do it now, because we're about to jump to a new generation. So it would, I think, come off easiest. It still won't come off great, but it'll come off easiest if you say, okay, next gen, we're going to be expecting some huge, and you can even word it like this. This could help. We're going to be expecting some massive, massive things in next gen, right? It's going to be like amazing, or the things we're going to be able to do on next generation consoles. We've increased the budgets for all these games. You've seen these budgets balloon over the last 5-10 years. We're going to have to do it again. We have to increase the prices of games. Otherwise, we can't keep giving you these high budget games. So, I mean, there are ways you can word it. And ultimately, again, you can say, well, it's the development's fault. It's like it's the publishers, it's the developers, it's the team, all that kind of stuff. You could say it's their fault. And I would agree with you. I do actually think they're a huge part of it. However, I will say this. It's a sucky situation. It sucks because no matter who you blame, it kind of is all null and void, because at the end of the day, it is how it is, even though we don't agree with it. It is what it is, and like there's nothing we can do. You know what I mean? If they don't, if they don't increase games, then they may start shutting down. They're like, well, because I know this sounds crazy, but this is some of how they think. It's like, well, we we can't handle it. We can't afford these high budgets. Like, well, why don't you focus on just shrinking your game and focusing on smaller aspects and maybe just trying to, if you shave a couple hours here or there or take this idea out, but really focus in on the core of the game, don't you think you can maybe handle? You don't have to shut your studio down, and they'll say, no, we have to shut the studio. You know what I mean? Like, EA probably has done that before, right? Like with Visceral and stuff like that. It's like, well, if you just give them more time, or maybe tell them, hey, stop making it so ambitious, just kind of shorten it up, kind of make it smaller, and they're like, nah, we're just going to close the entire studio. That's sadly kind of the situation of the gaming industry. But I do agree with that. I mean, I think we're at a point with games where there is a lot of solid things and there are a lot of things that are constantly improving, but there is still a thing there where you can focus in on the core aspects of these games and make those better. Like, we still haven't reached perfection in all aspects of a game, and so some parts of games are getting better every single time, right? Like, every studio, every game they make is getting better in certain ways, but some parts still haven't been perfected yet, and they're kind of just being forgotten about and moved away from. And I think that is one of the biggest problems of the gaming industry. And so in a way, I do kind of want developers to kind of go back and say, well, can we do these different things to try to maybe save some of the budget? You know what I mean? So we'll have to see. But I'll say, after seeing this NBA thing, I think it's very possible that the prices of games go up next generation. Like I said, I won't be upset. I won't be mad at them. Again, I mean, you can be. I'm not saying you can't be. If you want to be mad at them, absolutely, go right ahead. But I understand it, because at the end of the day, it's kind of just the situation they're in, where it's probably either increase the game, or there's going to be studios and stuff that they just can't do it and they'll have to shut down, instead of the more realistic thing, or what they should actually do, of just kind of shrink it. They won't do that. They will just end up closing things, or games that we want to exist will not end up existing. So we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, this is something that, as we get closer to the fall with these next gen games, does Assassin's Creed cost more if you want to buy it on next gen? Like, we'll have to see, especially in 2021, when we're starting to see more games be only on next gen. That's when it'll be the biggest indicator of, oh, okay, these games are going to cost just more money up front than current gen did. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you think? Is this something that you're worried about? Is this something that you think is going to end up happening? Is this something that you've been expecting? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And a really quick ask of you guys, my second channel, I have a second channel. I talk about a lot of the same kind of video games, same kind of movies as I talk about here. The link for that will be in the description below. If you guys want to check it out, if you haven't already, subscribe to that. That would mean a whole lot to me. So again, it's in the description below if you guys haven't already checked it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.